Hello everybody, today we are going to talk about conditional statements, which are statements, so they are some kind of expressions that can condition, so they can check if something was true or not true. And depending on the result, we can decide using something like conditional statement if we want to execute the instruction below conditional statement. So we can do something like that. If something is true or maybe not true, then I want to execute instructions below. Otherwise, else if this is true or maybe not true, then I want to execute instructions here. If something else again is true or maybe not true, then do these things. And if all of that instructions above were not true, then execute instructions here. So this is conditional statement. You can check if something was true or not true, and depending on situation, we can execute instruction below, right? When something like that can be used. Oh well, let's do a simple example firstly. Let's create variable a, let's assign to it 5, b, let's assign to it 3. And then let's check if a is greater than b. The way I wrote it here is called pseudocode. It's written like that. So this is not true code. I just wrote it like that so it's easier to understand. Here is the Python syntax that you need to use. So if a is greater than b, so that in order to create conditional statement, you need to write if word, and then you need to write parentheses, and inside parentheses you need to type the expression that should be checked. So for example, 5 is greater than b, right? And if 5 is greater than b, then you need to add the colon here. And after it, you need to make an indent here. I will talk soon about why you need to make an indent here. So you need to put some spaces here. And the instruction that should be executed. So for example, let's print a is greater than b. Like that. Let's run the module. As you can see, a is greater than b. And it's true. But when we change, for example, it to 2, as you can see, we haven't seen anything, right? Because, well, the expression here is not true, it's false, okay? If we did something like that, as you can see, it's false. If we did something like that, we have got that instruction here printed. So that's how the easiest conditional statement looks like. But that's not all. Look, we can do something like that. A is greater than b, and in other case, we can do something like, well, that's the problem. We do not write the else here. We just write el, that's all. That's how the syntax for else if looks like in Python. A is lower than b, then print a is lower than b. Otherwise, totally, when all of these cases are not true, run something like that. A is equal to b. And we can take maybe these numbers from the user, right? First number, second number, 5, 3. A is greater than b. It's true. Now let's type 3 and 5. A is lower than b. It's okay. 5 and 5. A is equal to b. Great, it's working fine. But there is a few more things that I need to talk about. Let's take this thing under the command. So these instructions won't be executed. And now what will happen if I delete this indentation here? So these spaces here. What happens? I cannot run the program. Syntax error, expected an indented block, which means that the interpreter expects the indented block, so some spaces before the print. It's an error in Python. If you are coming from another programming language, you might need to get used to it because you have to make indentations. So you need to make some spaces here. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can also hit the tab button, right? And it's okay in this IDE because when you hit tab button in the Python IDE, all that one hit from tab button will be changed into 4 spaces. Well, the truth is you could use only one space also. But the problem is that we have got here the comment. Let's do it like that. Okay. And it's gonna work fine. But there is some kind of convention. So the way we should as programmers all program. And the convention says that we should use here 4 spaces, okay? 4, some people say 2, but I think 4 is better. You shouldn't use tabulator, the tab button, but in this IDE specifically, you can use tab because tab is changed into 4 spaces, and so you do not need to care about it, right? You have got instantly 4 spaces. You just hit one button. It's, I think, easier than clicking 1, 2, 3, 4 times space, right? So the indentation is very important. But why? It might be why? Because imagine a situation like that. I want to write here one more instruction, like for example, A is greater than B, and I am so happy about that. When I run this module, as you can see, we didn't guess on the result A is greater than B. Neither we didn't get this one. But as you can see, when I typed A here, I got here what? A string. Ooh. So we tried to compare 2 strings to each other. So this is a common error. You need to compare 2 integers to each other, right? So you need to make some casting. So you need to change types like that. Now, when I type 10 and 5, as you can see, both of these instructions were executed properly. Okay? But look, when you run the module and you type, for example, 1 and in the second number 5, both of these instructions won't be executed. In our case, it was something that we wanted to happen. But what if, you wanted that instructions to execute? Let's run the module and let's type that's the first number, for example, 1 and then 5. As you can see, still this instructions was not executed. Why? Because it was on the same level of indentation. So there were the same amount of spaces. Here 4 and here 4 spaces, okay? So in order to, remove that instruction from that condition, you need to have the indentation that is, equal to the conditional statement. You need to have it on the same level. Like when I'm using my mouse here, it need to be on the same level, and then this instruction is not, under this conditional statement. Now when I run the module and I type 1 and then 5, as you can see, we have got this thing printed. Okay, so right now you understand that indentation matters, that you have to make indentation in order to what? To even be able to add something under the conditional statement, right? Like that, one thing here. And if you want to remove one of the instructions from conditional statement, you have to just, remove the indentation, right? The first instruction without indentation will not be under that conditional statement, okay? And now let's back to that. Let's check if it works fine. Run the module. 1, 5. A is lower than 5. That's true. 1 and 1. A is equal to B.